Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, the other way, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Since I'm a psychology YouTube channel, everything that I talk about may contain triggering material, truly. So, watch with care. All right, let's go.
And stuff like that. She's somebody that she doesn't like traveling. She's scared of traveling. I don't blame her. But I truly do believe, though, that if somebody wants something badly enough, if it's important enough to them, they'll make it happen.
Okay, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of grasping at straws here, but we see him pleading with his brother to come to the wedding. It's during the pandemic. I don't know exactly when this was, but, travel might have been not advised or ill-advised. And so he is wanting his family to come, and they're all saying they're not coming to his wedding, and he's hurt by that. So there's two things that I think are notable, kind of, that his family, at least in this instance, is not being very attentive to him. Now, I didn't travel and still haven't during the pandemic. I mean, we're still in the midst of the pandemic, so I still haven't traveled. But so I get that. But if one of my relatives was getting married and they really wanted me to be there, I'd probably figure out some way. I might even take a road trip. Anyway, so of course, driving all the way down to Ecuador would be nearly impossible. But anyway, not impossible, but difficult. Anyway, so that's one thing, is we're seeing one tiny little data point that might indicate general distance in his family. Who knows? The other data point is that his response to it is to plead, is to say, no, please, don't do that. Because a lot of people in this situation would be like, oh, yeah, even though in their heart they're hurt, they'll be like, oh, yeah, no problem, it's cool, or get angry or something. But his response is to say, please, will you come? Come on. And there's nothing wrong with that, but in a way, it's much more vulnerable and much more honest, right? He's like, I really want you to be there. But it's analogous to his pleading with Evelin. And again, I'm always looking for why are these people the way that they are? Maybe his family dynamic and the way he was treated and the necessary pleading and putting his own needs aside that he grew up with set him up for the kind of relationship he has with Evelin. I don't know.
Any one of my brothers says, hey, I really want you here for whatever, for a wedding, for just a visit, for anything, if it's very important to them, doesn't matter where in the world it was, I would be there. And that's honestly how I feel, but I don't feel that sense.
And then we also hear from him that he's like, I am a dedicated, loyal person. And we also see that with Evelin, that he will do anything to make it work with her.
It would make a big difference if just one person had come. My relationship with everybody, I feel like has deteriorated, and I don't like feeling the sense of separation. It's just upsetting that nobody's come to visit. I get married.
Okay, he says, my relationship with my family has deteriorated. What does that mean? Does that mean, what my suspicion is that it's just become very cut off because he's been, halfway across the world or a quarter across the world, and there's just a lot of distance, and he misses them, and he feels like they don't even care. The other thing we're hearing, or is he saying they've deteriorated because of conflict or something? I think it's the former. The other thing we're hearing is that no one's come to visit me. Again, more data pointing towards perhaps an ongoing life of feeling neglected and feeling like I don't matter, and feeling like my role is to beg people to love me.
3 or 4 years, you've been down in Ecuador, and we have grown apart. It's not to say that we don't support you, but it's not been, easy, given our past relationship with Evelin.
Okay, so, and some people actually told me that I missed an entire season. And somehow, I usually try to do my research to figure out like which, because the seasons are all over the place on the internet. So I, in terms of my cable channel and Discovery Plus and that kind of stuff, and so I think I missed an entire the first season of Evelyn and Corey, in which Evelyn was up in South Central Washington, and it sounds like there was conflict, which is interesting. I wonder if I should go back and watch that because maybe that'll tell us even more about their personalities. But at least the brother is saying, well, it's been hard for us to stay connected to you because what it sounds like is the family doesn't agree with him even being with her, let alone living in Ecuador.
When Evelyn was living in the U.S. with my family, it was really sad, actually, and it was really hard. Evelyn didn't feel welcome. She basically kept herself locked up in the apartment, and she would come down to eat dinners and whatnot, but didn't really speak with my family too much.
Hey, Evelyn, how you doing?
Right, so this must be from that season. Maybe we'll get enough of a summary so that I'll know the gist of what happened. So he's saying that they didn't get along, and she just basically stayed up in the room the whole time and didn't socialize much, was like cold and cordial, which I could absolutely see happening. But I wonder how that developed.
Haven't seen you much today.
Yeah, it's too cold to get out.
Too cold.
I never thought I would live in a place that isolated. I feel really trapped. I am sad about leaving you, but at the same time, I'm really happy I'm leaving.
Okay, a similar situation with Mike and Natalie, right? That Natalie was living in the woods. I think where he lives is even more in the wilderness, more further away from any kind of city. Sequim is 3 hours from Seattle and maybe an hour and a half from Tacoma. There's even Sequim itself is a little town. I think where he lives, it's called Mill A, like the letter A. I've never heard of that place in Washington State, which is where I live. I had to look it up on the map, and it's in well, I won't describe where it is, but it's far away from any city. I think pretty far away, and I think the closest cities are pretty small. Anyway, so makes sense that she would be like, oh boy, this is not what I signed up for. Which, I'll always say this: like when you date someone and you're looking to get married, for sometimes when you're dating, you're like, I'm not looking to get married. I'm just looking for a short-term thing. But if you're looking to get married, one of the first questions you should say is, where do they live and do I want to live there? Because, if Natalie had asked that question, I think she'd say, like, maybe I should date someone else.
She demanded that you go live in Ecuador with her because she didn't want to live in the United States because she hated the United States. And you obliged and you went down there because you wanted to save the relationship. And I get that, I do. But, we haven't seen you now. And that's just... It sucks that she demanded that of you.
Yeah, and I don't know what's happening. It sounds like there's a lot of background there, but okay, you don't agree with Evelyn, but does that mean you have to cut yourself off from your brother? That doesn't seem very cool.
Seems like Evelyn just makes decisions based upon what she wants and doesn't really think that she doesn't take your opinions into consideration.
So I'm really curious about that first season because I've only seen him when he's in Ecuador, and he has had no support system around him. And to hear the brother pointing out things that I think a lot of, in a pretty calm manner, in a way that a lot of viewers would agree with, I wonder if he is, his sort of acceptance of being treated in a certain way is because he has no one around him to say, like, hey, I don't know if that's fair to you.
I'm in love with Evelyn. There's a reason I have spent 7 years with her. It's because she is the person I love, and I'm making a big sacrifice because I love her.
You do have to make sacrifices for the people you love, but I just wish that you had to make less. That's all I'm saying. Ultimately, I do support your wedding, but I do have reservations about it, Corey, because of all the past disagreements we had. She's keeping you away from the United States and our family.
I knew there was problems. I knew they didn't really accept her that much. But this is the first time that I'm actually hearing this from my brother, at least to this extent. But then again, it's my wedding. That shouldn't be a reason for them not to come. You know, if they don't agree with Evelyn, that's fine, but they should still be there for me.
Right. I agree with that. I mean, everyone has to make their own choices, but that's how I would feel if I were in his shoes. And it just makes me wonder about, because of course Corey's personality was formed when he was growing up, and the things that we see that might aggravate us or frustrate us in his reactions to Evelyn were created and developed during that time in all likelihood. And I wonder if what we're seeing is the tip of the iceberg in terms of what he went through when he was growing up.
I mean, we're sorry that we can't make it. Honestly, we are.
Yeah.
I wish you the best, and it's your wedding, so enjoy it, you know?
All right.
Bye.
I mean, it's pretty heartbreaking. He's there just begging, like, just for one family member. Can just one person from my family please come? And he's just like, yeah, nah. Wish you the best. Again, it's a pandemic, so it's rough, but it you know, you could imagine how hurt he would be, and you just have to wonder if this is a representation of a larger pattern.
When I was staying with Raul, he invited me out to go have dinner. And little did I know, he had invited 2 girls to come join us. I didn't know who they were. Raul invited him, they were his friends, and they were both already in relationships. Raul decided to take out his phone and do a social media story. Evelyn obviously sees this and she gets really mad.
Okay, so Raul, who we've had questions about, or I have anyway, we don't know him. We've seen him not very often on the show, but he seems to exhibit some interesting behavior. On one hand, from early interactions, it seemed like he was kind of a free spirit and, thinks outside the box. He would tell Corey, look, I still would love to be with Evelyn, but I'm not going to stand in your way. That kind of thing. Or, and then other times it seemed like there were more nefarious motives that he was exhibiting, but it's hard to know. In this instance, we're hearing from Corey that Raul asked him out to dinner, and unbeknownst to Corey, he brought 2 women along. And then Raul did a public Instagram post, story or video, of the 4 of them to dinner, and of course Evelyn got upset. I'm sure Raul knew that she would get upset. Why would you invite, like you just have to figure that Raul knew that there was something going on there. Was it nefarious? I don't know, but maybe we'll find out.
Nothing happened. We just had dinner and then we left. But it became a much bigger problem after that. Me and Evelyn had just separated. I'm staying with you. She doesn't know what we're doing. It looks bad, I know that the intention wasn't to set me up on a date with him. I know that.
Okay, so it was after they broke up and Raul went out to dinner with him. And Raul just happened to invite 2 women who Corey doesn't even know. And then Raul just happens to post publicly, why would you even do that? The 4 of them at dinner. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's just like, well, that's what I always do. Every time I go to dinner, I always do a sweep with the camera and I post it on Instagram. And these are just great people. I don't think about gender. Like, I don't know what's going on.
But it appeared that way. And I remember specifically saying, Raul, don't post that because it looks bad. It's going to make Evelyn really upset. It did cause all of these problems.
Wow, so let's add that to the list of nefarious data. So he takes the video and he says, Raul, don't post that. And then he posted it. Yikes. Imagine that. Imagine someone tells you, yeah, don't post that video publicly. And then you post it anyway. Yikes. I mean, under any circumstances, even if you're just like, I don't even know why they matter. Like, why would you do that? Unless something's going on there.
Could have easily been prevented had you just listened to me.
I get everything you say, but I never meant any harm.
Maybe you didn't think anything would come of it. I don't know. Evelin took it.
Regardless of whether you meant to do harm, he agreed to not post it, and then he posted it. So even on that level, but of course, is this the tip of the iceberg to the nefariousness?
Dude, I post pictures of food, pictures of girls, but sometimes it doesn't mean anything. It's just what I'm doing daily. And I know I've been an ass sometimes to you. Dude, I want to make it up to you. I wish you nothing but the best to you and to Evelin. You're a really good man, bro. You're a really good person.
So, and then, I don't know, when he says stuff like that, either he's just a really master manipulator, or it just makes me think, well, I don't know, maybe he is just kind of a random person and he just, again, thinks outside the box. Some people are like that. They're just, I don't know what you call them, like free spirits, or they just don't think in terms of jealousy or even consequences. You know, they just do things impulsively, you know, who knows. But regardless, when someone asks you don't post that online and you post it online, like something's going on there, right? And then of course we know that he likes Evelin and wants to be with her, so and I think he even said, yeah, I mean, if the two of you broke up, I would definitely try to get with Evelin. And we also know that, what was that happened when she cheated on him? She cheated on Corey, Evelin, and Raul thought it was hilarious that people were calling him these horrible names. He's like, you know, it's really terrible that they're calling him names, but you know, it is kind of funny. It's like, yeah, good friend.
Just sucks that all of this had to happen at this moment, because it did screw up a lot of things, you know? Like, I'm so sorry. But I have to say that you're not invited to the wedding.
Interesting. Corey is putting his foot down. He's drawing a boundary. Yeah. I mean, we don't know, but the little bit we've seen, it doesn't look like Raul is a good friend. Now, I don't know why Corey has to meet with him in person to tell him that, but yeah, I mean, if Raul, at the very least, isn't thoughtful and conscientious, and at worst is like actively working behind the scenes against you, then yeah, you're not invited to the wedding.
Really?
There's not an invite for you. So I do apologize about that. She's like, Corey, like, look, we can't have Raul at the wedding.
Oh, of course. Corey didn't draw the boundary. Evelin drew the boundary because of that date night situation. I mean, not a date night, but, you know, the four of them at dinner. So Corey isn't drawing the boundary. He is apologizing to Raul. Evelyn's drawing the boundary. Now, again, who knows? Maybe Raul is a great friend, and we just haven't really seen the full picture. But if Raul is not a great friend, this is just another example of Corey not being in connection with how people are hurting him.
Ecuador. I've known Evelin for more than 10 years. I've been so supportive of both of them, and I'm not invited to the wedding, and they just destroy me.
I really, you know, I would like you to be there, because I don't have anybody coming. Nobody from my family is.
Well, Raul, when your friend, after recently breaking up with Evelin, asks, you know, and you're going to go out to dinner, how about not inviting two rando ladies? And how about not taking a video? And how about listening to him when Corey, when he says don't post it? And how about not posting it? So there are consequences to doing things.
She's just thinking about her. I don't know, maybe you can reconsider it, because we've been friends for a really long time, and
Right now, I just feel like I'm on very thin ice. There are consequences to my decisions. If I do anything wrong, like, she could call off the wedding.
Oh, just imagine that. Just imagine being a fiancé, having a fiancé, and thinking, if I don't do everything she says, if I don't play this right, if I don't walk this tightrope, she's going to call off the wedding. They're going to call off the wedding. Just imagine that. Like, usually you're wanting to be in a situation where you're not on a tightrope, you're on a very wide path, and unless you take several steps in a bad direction, the love is still there, the desire to spend the rest of your life with each other is still there, right?
I'm torn because I would really like to have that support from Raul, but I know the risks it brings. If Raul shows up to the wedding, that could really trigger Evelin, and it could be a disaster. I just feel all this pressure.
That's not how life works.
All right. Well, if you want to participate in the conversation with other viewers of this YouTube channel and podcast, you can comment below, or you can join the Discord, or you can join the Facebook fan page, or on the Instagram. Links should be below. Also, there's a subreddit, and it's great to communicate with others and bounce ideas off each other for various different things, just wishing each other happy birthday and that kind of thing. But please be respectful to each other. Give each other the benefit of the doubt. That is not done enough on the internet. I think we can all model differentiated, mature, compassionate behavior. So I really depend on all of you to do that. And I know a lot of you have, which is great. I see the support going on in the comment section. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.